Takes all that and more when we return.
Welcome to the Devy Devotional Podcast, a show devoted to college prospect evaluation with a fantasy football focus. With your hosts, John Arrington, Aaron Wilcox, and Andy Starr. This podcast brings you actionable strategies and player-driven analysis for your Devy, C2C, and Dynasty leagues. Let's dive in.
Let's dive into Devy, but first, let's congratulate, I should say, our partner in crime, our co-host, Andy Starr, Aaron Wilcox, I should say. Yeah, that's not you're the other guy. Man, I'm not doing well on this one. Aaron Wilcox, our good friend, he is not here tonight. The reason for that is because he had a baby. Let's go, baby! Congratulations, and also welcome to our newest fan, Rory James Wilcox. Uh, I'm sure he will be listening every single episode, and hopefully Aaron is getting some sleep because we know he won't be getting too much of that. Sorry that intro was a little off the rails. This is what happens when I'm drinking water. But welcome into the Devy Devotional, where we stay devoted to Devy. I'm your host, John Arrington, normally joined by Aaron Wilcox, but I am joined by Andy Starr this time, and he is not having a baby, I don't think. But but Aaron did, and once again, congratulations. But we are actually going to be revisiting our hot takes from the off season. We had some good ones, some bad ones, some really bad ones, and it's always fun going back and looking at it. You know, we try to have some realism and realistic nature to our hot takes and not just throw them out for any damn good reason. And so, you know, it's nice to go back and say, hey, you know, did this make any sense at all, or was this just really a bad thing? But Andy, before we get into that, do you have any well wishes? Hopefully, you can do a better job than I did to our good friend Aaron there.
Yeah, congratulations, Aaron. We've already talked to him privately, but yeah, I'm excited for him. I'm sure he's excited. It's gonna like you told him, and he's well aware. His sleeping schedule is about to change dramatically, um, but it's all worth it. It's gonna be so much fun. I'm so happy for him, and I am not going to have any more children. I'm capped at three, and that's where I will stand until I eventually leave this plane of existence.
That's right. I had two, and I told my wife never, ever, ever again. But enough about that. It'll be fun. Obviously, Aaron's going to be missing some shows here. We have no idea when he'll be back. Obviously, whenever he feels that he can return, he obviously will. But for the time being, it'll just be Andy. And, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll actually bring on some guests. We don't bring on guests all that often because it's kind of difficult with four people to really get a stay under an hour, not talk over each other and all that kind of stuff. But maybe if it's just Andy and I, we can try and get some guests in here. Obviously, I know we just did Felix, you know, a little while ago, but that was definitely more of a surprise and an ambush, if you will, by Andy and Felix on me. No, like I said, we're going to be revisiting hot takes from the pod earlier in the season. Normally, if I had more time in season, I would probably cut up the actual hot takes and played them here, and then we could have sat and discussed them and everything. But Andy luckily listed everything off, so we have it all written down, and we can just do it that way. So we can go through and make fun of the bad ones, and hopefully congratulate a couple people some more with the good ones. But Andy, should we start with the hilariously bad ones, or should we start with the good one and make it seem like we're good at this?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't thought about like what order to go in. Should we just go in the order that we mentioned them on the original pod, or should we knock out our wins first, or kind of just go back and forth? It's kind of up to you. I don't know.
Why don't we alternate? Do a bad one and a good one.
All right. Well, I'll start with my worst one. I think. Let's see. You know, you guys told me at the beginning of the season that my takes were kind of mild, and I agree now. But one of them that you guys said was mild ended up being dead wrong, and it was Nico Iamalieva, the UCLA experience experiment, whatever you want to call it, would be a success. That was my take. I thought Nico was going to go to UCLA, improve on where he was at Tennessee, and all would be forgotten about the nastiness and you know the the bad blood between him and Tennessee, and people would just move on and say, okay, Nico, he's still a top tier prospect, and we can be excited for him in the NFL. And that absolutely did not happen. So that was probably the one take that I would say I completely whiffed on. And I know there's probably some Nico stands still out there, but it's not going to happen, guys. I hate to be the bearer of bad news at this point in time, but he finished with under 6 yards per attempt, and I know UCLA's offense as a whole was miserable, but I mean this just isn't it. Like third year player, a former 5 star with only 13 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. His rushing upside, it's there, but it's not like it was showing up on the stat sheet. So I don't know what else to do with Nico at this point, but other than to just nuke him and throw him off into oblivion, because it's not going to happen for him anymore.
Yeah, I want to say that I was not on board with this one, so I don't know if you got a mild, maybe, maybe I just agreed to disagree here because I can't ever say that I was like fine with Nico or anything like that. I was after seeing what I saw and then him going over to a different school and all that kind of stuff. I mean, maybe to think like he would be okay for CFF purposes or something like that, but if we were, sticking to more of a Devy lens, I need to go back and listen to how I responded to that one because I can't imagine giving you a mild on that. That just doesn't
I
sound
You
right.
probably gave me I had to do this like 4 hours ago and just zoom through the episode. I didn't have time to listen to the full hour before I was just sort of like fast forwarding to what the take was, and then I didn't really listen to the discourse much. I did listen to Aaron. He sort of said like he didn't really fully forget Nico, but also the theme of the episode was me just getting mild to mildly hot for everything that I said. So you might have given me a hot, but that was about it.
Yeah, you have one later on that, like, just looking back, obviously it was for other people not on the Debbie devotional, it was a hot take, but it was the mildest of mild takes when it comes to an Oregon running back. But yeah, I mean the Nico I one, like I said, I can't imagine that I was really too on board with that one as far as it being a mild take because I just was completely out. Once I see a guy struggle with pushing the ball down the field and really just struggle with being a good quarterback in general, I don't know that I'm just like, oh yeah, transferring somewhere else is going to magically, fix that. So, yeah, I don't know that I was on board with this one. I don't think I was, but obviously, I think we can all agree that Nico I is not the savior that that maybe people thought he once was. And I think he did actually start off kind of hot, didn't he? And then obviously, once they got past their like easy FCS schedule and all that kind of stuff, it got nasty pretty quickly.
Well, if you remember, UCLA lost like every one of their games, I think, until did they upset Penn State? I think that was like the game that Penn State was coming off of a loss, and then all of a sudden UCLA beat them too for like their first win of the season,
Yeah.
and that was like
Yep.
the beginning of the end of James Franklin. But his first 3 games, he had 3 interceptions, and then he kind of cleaned it up for a bit, and then after that Penn State, and then he had a good game against Michigan State, and then after that, it was back to 2 interceptions against Maryland, 2 interceptions against Indiana, and then he only threw 3 interceptions or 3 touchdowns the final 3 games of the year. So it it wasn't a
Ouch.
it was he had like 2 games. It was Penn State and Michigan State, and then everything went off the rails.
Yeah, I'm looking at the numbers now. Not not looking too great. In fact, he had 69 passing yards against Washington on 26 attempts. That's not very good. So yeah, I think we can probably call him done. 13 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. I think we're as a true junior. I think we're pretty much done with Nico I here. So yeah, we could say that was a bad one. I'll go with a bad one myself. I don't get this. Well, I want to make caveats and I want to make excuses for it, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to throw it out there because it doesn't make any sense to me. But Oklahoma was probably one of the most exciting teams overall in the offseason. Everyone was almost had their guy like who thought they thought was going to be great, whether it was one of the running backs or whether it was one of the wide receivers. A lot of us, including ourselves, were in on John Mateer, and we could probably we didn't do a John Mateer take on that pod, but we probably could have said some of our takes from the offseason of like we thought how good we thought John Mateer was going to be as one of the bad hot takes. But along with that, I said Zion Kearney was going to be was going to lead Oklahoma in receiving and be a top 10 wide receiver in the 2027 draft class. I don't think we're really close to either of those things happening right now. I think we're like what, a couple yards off of the leading Oklahoma receiving part, and I guess we'll have to check and see what the what the ranks are saying about the top 10 part.
He may have come close to leading them in receiving against Temple because that was the only game he recorded a receiving yard. But um, yeah, that was kind of a miss. And I remember when you said this on the pod, I was of the notion that I don't know who's going to be Oklahoma's wide receiver one because Giovanni Gibson was a guy that I liked who was an FCS transfer who was hurt all offseason. So I didn't really, believe in him in the offseason, which ended up being true. And then Deion Burks also had his injury history. So I wasn't really quite in on him either. So I was like, sure, if you want to say he's going to lead Oklahoma in receiving, why not? He had he caught for over 100 yards as a freshman, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like, okay, he's moving in the right direction. Um, and then it didn't come to fruition. Maybe it's a Oklahoma offensive problem. I don't know exactly. They bring in Arbuckle, who's supposed to be this offensive guru, and yeah, they're in the playoff. Things are working for them. I think it's more to their defense and their offense at this point. But yeah, I don't. The whole top 10 in 2027. I also said that I was like, whatever, if you're a top 10 receiver in a class, it really doesn't make much of a difference to me because you could be like the 10th best receiver in a class and it's not that exciting. But yeah, he's not anywhere near that right now, unfortunately. So that was just a complete miss.
Yeah, and like I said, I want to make excuses and everything, but the only thing I can really say is he only ran 19 routes this entire year. This isn't even a like the guy can't earn targets or anything like that. He's not on the field, and so I mean at that point we just I don't even know what to say. Is this a coach thing? Is this a player thing? I really don't know. He flashed as a freshman, small sample, but that's what we see most of the time with these freshman receivers are small samples, and then it just did not come to fruition as as a sophomore. So I really don't know, but obviously he did not lead them in receiving, and he is definitely not a top 10 wide receiver in 2027. In fact, I don't have him. I don't have the actual list of what my 2027 class is, but I have him as my 143rd Devy wide receiver overall right now. So not looking too fantastic for that take. But that's enough of the bad ones for now. Why don't you give us a good one so we can actually sound smart for once?
All right. This one was the kind of the take that I was pounding all off season, and it got a mild from you guys because you were both on board with it, but it went against every NFL draft analyst, every CFF analyst who thought Mackay Hughes at Oregon was going to basically do exactly what he had been doing at Tulane and come to Oregon, take over that backfield, and just be a stud. So my take was that Noah Whittington would actually finish the season with more scrimmage yards than Mekhi Hughes, which obviously happened because Mekhi Hughes has essentially left the team. He redshirted this year and basically announced his intention to join enter the transfer portal back in like October, maybe even September. He played like 3 games for them and finished with hardly anything. And Noah Whittington he's been hurt for several games and has been passed up by Deer Hill and Jordan Davison. But he still finished the season with more scrimmage yards than Mekhi Hughes. So the crux of that take was that Mekhi Hughes was going to suck, which in fact happened. So that was a win. Hopefully people listened to me. I don't know if they did. There was Mekhi Hughes people, the bag holders were out there, but
They're still out there somehow.
they're still out there. They're still believers. At this point, you just got to hope that he goes back to like a G5 program and resurrects some sort of CFF career, because I don't, the NFL is just not going to be for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I will say you seem to lock into Noah Whittington early on and say he's going to lead the team in rushing. I don't know if did he lead the team in rushing. Um, I guess we could look it up real quick. But I remember you locking in. I didn't feel as much as I did not like Mekhi Hughes. I didn't feel as confident in saying that Noah Whittington was going to go ahead and lead the team in rushing. And let's see, it was 774 rushing yard. Yep, he did. Noah Whittington led by a couple hundred yards over Jordan Davison, the true freshman, and Deer Hill Jr., the also true freshman. So, Whittington ended up doing that. So that's like one of those double takes where it's like not only were you out on Mekhi Hughes, I was definitely not like, oh yeah, let me go ahead and put all my chips in on Noah Whittington either. And yet you kind of did both. You doubled down and you definitely hit big on that one. So that was a great take. But more importantly, people like the it wasn't that difficult with Mekhi Hughes. Just look at their numbers. Like it's not that difficult to look at a guy that's at a lower level competition and say, yeah, he's probably not going to be amazing once he moves up to the Big Ten. I think that might be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, in that same, not to say that you're wrong, because I would say for the most part, it's pretty easy to identify those players. But then there's also the Ahmad Hardys of the world who look very similar on paper to a guy like Mekhi Hughes, and he did turn it around. There was Terrion Stewart was another guy. Remember him? He was at like Bowling Green and
Hmm.
transferred to Virginia Tech. He was also like a Mekhi Hughes, just plotter, and he certainly wasn't getting as much love as as Mekhi Hughes, but he was another one that you could just tell was never gonna catch on at a P4 program.
Yeah, I think it's like guys like that. Like I always picked up on Terry and Stewart as a guy that I would like for CFF purposes, but I never as a guy that I would like for Devy or anything like that. But I mean, honestly, people were pushing Mekhi Hughes up to like Devy RB5 and stuff like that because he was going over to Oregon. And it's like there even if you thought okay he could take a step forward and possibly be a CFF guy, there was almost no chance of him ever becoming some like Debbie stud. And even with the Ahmad Hardy, I don't want to act like I was always 100% in on him or anything like that. But if I went back and looked at the numbers, I feel like I was always a little higher on Hardy than I was on Hughes, even if I didn't necessarily believe that he was going to take that huge step forward. But even then, it's probably more rare that happens than oh yeah, let's just go ahead and assume that every guy that's moving up from the G5 to the P4 is just going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I think the difference too with Hardy, which Aaron has pointed out in the past, is he did it as a true freshman, so
Yep.
it kind of elevates the expectations and maybe like what we can look at going forward with these true freshmen who really bust out at a G5 program and then move up. Like they seem to have better, uh, you know, do better at these programs once they get there.
Yeah, and I've always been a big proponent of like if anyone was ever going to fool me, it's going to be a freshman running back, because I've been fooled by quite a few, whether good or bad, and it's almost like I need to change something. It's not just me. I'm obviously other people have been as well, but I mean even going back to Jeremiah Love, what he did as a true freshman uh, was not very good. Go back and look at his numbers, and there was a reason why I was leaning more towards Jadarian Price and other players when it came time for his sophomore year, and then all of a sudden Jeremiah Love became who he is, and so but there's so many times that true freshman running backs can just kind of not quite hit right, and then when they hit their sophomore season, it does. It's usually when the juniors and seniors of the world and stuff like that, like Makai Hughes going over after 3 or 4 years, those are the guys that I'm like, I'm pretty sure we have a good idea of who they are. But that was a great one by Andy. We actually didn't do a bad one for Aaron. It feels kind of wrong with him not being here, but this one was pretty egregious, so I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I don't know. He it wasn't just Aaron. I don't really remember the take. For like I said, it's kind of wrong because he's not here to defend it. But I know he was all in on Robertson as a QB, and he made the spiciest of takes, saying Robertson was going to be a first round pick in the NFL draft when it was all said and done. I don't think we have to worry about that one happening anymore. He's pretty much fallen off the face of the planet as far as Devy viability and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, Aaron had a lot of good takes on this hot take pod, but this was a bad one.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up Sawyer's numbers right now, and he was one of those guys that started hot in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Just and they were playing decent competition too. Like Baylor played Auburn and SMU, and then it kind of lightened up a little bit before getting into the Big 12 schedule. But yeah, I mean, finishing with 12 interceptions, his yards per attempt under 8, big time throw rate's not there. I think he's gonna be. He's a Senior Bowl invite. I remember because we were making a joke that Aaron was controlling the Senior Bowl invites. But so I think he's definitely gonna get drafted, because he this QB class is awful.
Yeah.
He's probably gonna end up being like a fourth or fifth round pick. I think, if especially if like people at the Senior Bowl catch on and like say, okay, this guy, they'll say something nice about him. Maybe he's good at remembering playbooks or something. I don't know, but he's gonna end up being like a day 3 draft pick, and he'll probably catch on. He might be one of those guys that's just like a lifelong backup who just bounces around like 5 or 6 teams throughout his whole NFL career. But no, I don't, he's definitely not a day 1 pick. So sorry, Aaron. That was, and like you said, he had a lot of his calls are pretty good on this pod, but that was certainly one where he missed the mark.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not even. I honestly think it's a volume thing with Robertson. Like, some of his numbers look okay because, you go, oh, he threw 31 touchdowns, but yeah, he threw 504 times too, in a 12 game span. Like, that's wild. He threw 59 times against Utah. He only completed 49.2% of those passes, but he threw for 430 yards and 3 tutties. So it's like, I think it's like one of those volume traps. If you're just looking at numbers, you might be like, oh yeah, obviously he needs to clean up the interceptions, but like this and that, but like the adjusted yards per attempt are terrible. The obviously the interception rate's terrible. The big time throw rate's pretty low. The intended air yards are okay. It's just not a player I'm excited about, but like you said, he probably will get a Senior Bowl bump. People will look at those numbers and say, "Hey, he threw for 30 touchdowns," and he probably will be drafted at some point. But I don't think you would be catching me if I was a GM drafting him at any point in the NFL. But since Aaron's not here to defend himself, why don't we go ahead and get a good one out of the way for him as well? Let's see, Aaron. we don't want to do the best one for him yet. So you got a good one for Aaron?
Um, well, I was gonna do the best one for him, but let's see here. Uh, he had some good ones towards the end. I want to say.
Okay, no. So
Uh,
we'll do a medium one because this one he
okay,
was a
all
little
right.
wild. Oh
Are you to do the Sadiq one?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say he went a little wild with this one to make it more Diablo because we had said that he was being too nice or being too calm with his takes and everything. So he went Diablo saying Kenyon Sadiq was going to be 1,000 yard receiver. Clearly did not happen. I don't even know if he was a 500 yard receiver when it was all said and done. But he's also caveated that with by saying the Devy tight end won. Now, here's the thing. I personally don't think that he's the Devy tight end one. I will not have Kenyon Sadiq ranked as my Devy tight end one, but it definitely seems like he's going to be drafted as the tight end one in the class. At least the way that every single person is acting right now. So that's not always the case. That doesn't mean it's 100% happening. But if you asked if you asked 100 Devy analysts, if there's even that many out there, I would say probably 95 of them would probably have Sadiq as their tight end one at this point. So uh, I will give him I'll give him like an good job on this one. Not bad, not great, but like I said, it was definitely in a player that I was not willing to accept as anything. He saw something there and said, "Hey, this is going to end up being the tight end one when it's all said and done."
Yeah, I mean, I definitely gave him the Diablo for the 1,000 yard thing, but I don't even remember who the Devi tight end one was in the offseason for like the masses. It may have been Kenyon Sadiq. Like people were all about him for a while. Or
Um,
Trades Green was up
Trades
there.
Green was
Haas,
up there.
Luke Haas.
Max Clare.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
Lukash was hurt, but he was definitely mentioned.
I
It
think he
was
was.
your Max Clares. Your wasn't there like a Franklin guy from Penn State that was taking over for Tyler Warren,
Yeah,
or maybe he was a
Luke
freshman. I
Reynolds
don't
or
remember. But
something.
there was a bunch of names that people were throwing
Yeah,
around, but there was no sold tight. This guy's the tight end one
right.
consensus for anyone. I don't think so. Sadiq was definitely mentioned, but I don't think he was consensus at that point.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. I have to look at the numbers, but I do like Eli Stowers as a potential tight end one. I like Tanner Kazile as a potential tight end one. But I also like Kenyon Sadiq. And it seems like he's going to get the best draft capital. So he's probably also going to be the most expensive, which is probably going to mean I'm completely out on him, and I'll just go for a guy like Tanner Kazile in the third or fourth round because it seems like he's not getting as much love as I think he deserves. Um, so I don't hate the take. I think he probably is going to be the tight end one in this draft class for most people. And honestly, like I don't hate that as a take either because especially if he has a good playoff run, he had a real bad game against Washington, which put him under 2 yards per route run, which for tight ends it's not as big of a deal for me because it doesn't matter as much. But he and like you said, he didn't even have 500 yards receiving, but in that offense with Dante Moore, he still was an integral part and was scoring a lot of touchdowns, especially early in the season. So I think if you have him as your tight end one, I don't disagree with it, but it's just going to price me out personally because I'm not going to pay that much for a tight end that I view similarly as two or three other guys in this class.
Yeah, there's way too many people pushing Sadiq into the first round of their mocks and things right now, where it's like, I'm not even I won't even strongly argue about who is or isn't the tight end one, but I can guarantee you none of them should be drafted in the first round of rookie drafts next year. None of them have earned that. Even like think about how great of a season Tyler Warren had last year. As a fifth year player, and there was a lot of question marks of like, hey, it's just one season, but obviously he was kind of like drafted over, whatever. He was held back by the other players playing ahead of him before that, Theo Johnson, and there was another player as well. I can't remember his name, but there's a lot of questions, and he's had a great rookie season, but Tyler Warren's not out there like changing lives or anything like that at this point in the of the season. It kind of looked like it might have gone that way like after the first couple weeks, because I think didn't he have like a touchdown in 3 straight weeks or something like that to start the season? Something like really big, and now he's kind of come down to earth, and it's like, oh yeah, never mind. So, and think
And
about
now
it, that was a
now
guy.
he's gonna have Philip Rivers
Yeah,
coming out of the casket to throw him passes. So
yeah, exactly. So God only knows what that's going to be like. But I mean, I wasn't even trying to. I was just saying like, and that was a guy that had like 1,400 scrimmage yards in his fifth year. This is a guy, a true junior, albeit, but this is a guy who had the tight end game to himself this year and had 490 receiving yards. And I love how whenever you mention someone not having 500 receiving yards or whatever as a tight end, what's the first name everyone goes to? Oh yeah, but George Kittle. Okay, well, how many George Kittles have we seen since George Kittle joined the league? Not too many. So like let's not go too get too excited. But point of the story is, yeah, he probably that was a decent take by Aaron. I don't think I did a good one yet, and I'm going to do a decent one as well because I don't know what to think about this one. People would probably say this is wrong. I think this is undetermined at this point. And I said Denzel Boston is going to be a day three pick when it was all said and done. I remember you guys just saying it was like the mildest of takes and like just nodding and agreeing and everything.
yeah,
But then, from that day on, we became the pod that hated Denzel Boston. And it seems like everyone else was just on the Denzel Boston hype train. He's the greatest receiver of all time. He's at one point you had people kind of talking about could he be the wide receiver one in the class. Obviously, that's calmed down since then, but you still have people talking about him being a round one wide receiver. Like, what in what world have you ever seen a round one wide receiver that had like 1,600 yards over the past 2 years at Washington? Like this isn't some like school that's throwing for 1,500 yards a season or something like that. Like the dude didn't even put up 800 yards receiving this year. The only thing you can really say he did was score some touchdowns. But we've seen that with a lot of other players. My comp for him was N'Keal Harry, which obviously people do not like, and will not agree to whatsoever. Aaron, I think, threw out slower Keon Coleman, which isn't that just N'Keal Harry? I mean, I don't know. It's tough when you're trying to make these comps. I don't know if Andy has a good comp for him or not, but like has there ever been more of a day three player that's getting hyped up to be a day one player ever, or that you can remember? I don't besides Savion Williams from last year, but I think that was different with the
he
whole
wasn't
like
even.
he could run though. And
Yeah, but I don't even think he was getting anywhere close to this. Like it was almost a surprise when Savion Williams went day two.
yeah.
Denzel Boston, and I pulled it up before we started the show. He's still like mock draft database still has him as the 22nd overall player in the NFL draft. So he's still getting first round
Why?
draft capital. I
Why?
don't know. Like, and then he like, so he was hurt against UCLA because he only ran two routes in that game, and then he came back for the final game against Oregon and only had 25 yards receiving. He's only had two games over 100 yards. Granted,
Yep.
he had two more over 90 yards, but um, it's just not good. Like I don't understand it honestly. It's it's a strange one. He's one of those guys. He did it last year too, where like he had a stretch of 3 or 4 games where he really did the bulk of his damage, and then kind of disappeared. This year, I can't even really say that he did like he had like those type of games. He had some good games against Washington State, against Rutgers, against Illinois, against Colorado State, I guess. Um, But aside from that, I mean, this is just a pure. This is one of those things where this is a player where film and analytics will disagree fully. More so than even like Chris Bell, because Chris Bell, you could argue, at least had a decent season this year.
Mhm.
And I don't know that you could make that argument for Denzel Boston. He is hitting over 2 yards per route run this year, but it's just this is his fourth year. The market share has never been great. I don't see it. And I honestly, if he goes round one, he's going to be an absolute fade for me.
I, if he goes round two, he's an absolute fake. 'Cause someone's always going to. I just put out a rookie mock, 2 round rookie mock on DLF, and I got so much hate for it because I did not include Denzel Boston in my 2 rounds, and I didn't include Jonah Coleman and Emmett Johnson. Those were the three that people were like really picked on, and I'm like, all right, like, I get what you're saying. Like people think that Denzel Boston is like the next coming or something, but I like he's literally not. He's not even in Devy Best's top 100 Devy wide receivers, and you want me to be excited about this player. There's no bias, there's no nothing in Debbie Beth. This is not me saying, "Oh, I hate this player, so I'm going to make Debbie Beth hate it." I don't get it whatsoever. But then, uh, and then with the other two, like we're going off on tangent, but with the other two, which I mean, just look at what they've done. They haven't done anything to make you think that they're going to be studly players. So I think. When it was all said and done, I have a. Oh, sorry, someone was DMing me. I don't get it with Denzel Boston. I still think that my take of him being a day 3 pick is quality. I don't think he's going to be day 1. I don't think he's going to be a first round pick. There's no way. Like he would have to go out and absolutely crush the combine, which I just don't see happening. I think that's always been the one thing in the back of my mind is like he's not going to go and do well at the combine. Like I don't think he's overly athletic or doing anything that makes me think that he is some athletic stud. And so I think, kind of like some of these players that we've gotten really excited about in the past, once they go out and they put up like a 4.65 or whatever 40 and things like that, then you go, oh, okay, never mind. And then even if he's a day 2 pick, uh, I'm still taking this one as a dub because at the time Boston was getting hyped as like one of the wide receiver, like possibly a wide receiver 1 in the class or something like that. And like I said, I don't even have him in my top 10.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We were kind of like this, it's not the same situation, but like with Luther Burden, at this time last year, he was still being mocked as a first round draft pick, and then all of a sudden you started to see like it slowly start to dip into like the middle of the second round and into the third round. And I think he still ended up being a second round pick, but I think that's probably the trajectory Boston's on right now. I think that enough people and scouts have convinced at least one GM that he's talented, so he'll probably end up, somewhere on that spectrum as like a early day 2 pick. But yeah, same thing with Burden as with him. I'm gonna be out on him. Even if he goes to like the middle of the second round in rookie drafts, it's there's gonna be better players there.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So I just did a decent one. You have another one for us, Andy? Let's see. We got the Nico I. We got the Mackay Hughes.
Well, my
Um,
other ones were so I said Ian Strong will be a day 2 pick, and I did say either this year or the following year should he decide to transfer. This was a super mild take in retrospect. Um, I don't think it's that crazy to say he's a day 2 pick right now. Um, but I really, when we were talking about our transfer predictions or things we want to see, I mentioned that I'd want him in the transfer portal this year rather than going pro. So we'll see what happens because the 2027 class is also completely loaded. So he might just decide to come out this year. But if he does, and he gets like an invite to a Senior Bowl or something, I'd absolutely think that he'll end up as a second or third round pick.
Yeah, this one. I mean, we were both big Ian Strong fans. In fact, I remember. Uh, if I remember correctly, I'm the biggest Ian Strong fan, right? No one else, no one else loves him like I do. But yeah, it's so tough now because like he started off so strong, but it hasn't been great. Injuries and things later on in the season. We don't even know, like you said, if is he coming out? Is he staying? I don't know that the day two pick thing is. In fact, I think he is being considered a day two pick right now, or close to it. If he's not, so I don't even own like the mock draft database website and everything. So I don't even think it's that crazy. I think it's a pretty solid take, and it was definitely a name that no one was really in on besides us at the time, especially. So I think it ended up being a pretty good call. Although your last one, you probably should have saved the Ian Strong one for your last one because now you have to go with. I'll let you just roll right into this not as good one.
Is this the Kendrick Raphael one?
It is.
Or I didn't think that one was that bad. I said he would
Will be a
lead.
top three. Did he lead the ACC? I mean, did he even
He
lead
might
his
have.
team? I don't even know if he led his team in rushing. Much less
Bruh, yeah, he did. What? Hold on, Kendrick Raphael, and I said he'd be a 1,000 yard rusher, which let's see what he finished with, 845.
I mean, he had a
Okay,
1,000 scrimmage yards, so that's not terrible.
all right.
Um,
I don't.
okay,
I'm gonna have to look at.
he definitely led his team in rushing. There was no one else that was anywhere close to him. But I
So
don't know. Maybe
I'm
I
thinking
had
of.
Raphael. I had Raphael on a couple teams, and I remember starting him like twice. Where did he get 853 yards from?
I started him all the time, man. Hold on. Let me. He didn't do good. All right. I don't think that he was top. He probably wasn't top three in PPR points for ACC, but I have to look it up, and I don't know how to do that. I'm trying to do it on Fantrax, um,
Uh, I'll
but
see if I can't look it up
I'm just trying to think.
in the
Like Damon
W.
Claiborne might have been higher than him. Um, the guy from Louisville who just scores touchdowns all the time, and then maybe Jamari Taylor from Virginia. But um, yeah, I can't pull up. I don't know how to do this on my phone to like figure out the ACC. I can let me just go to. I'll look at on PFF and see like who were the leading rushers were in the ACC.
All right. While you're doing that, I was looking in Debbie Beth to see. I have him. This is just in Debbie Beth ranking. This is not like overall rushing or anything like that. But I'm looking, man. He's down, down. I don't even see. Oh, there's Terry and Stewart. Still don't see him. He was not good this year, man. I don't know. You tell me where he was, but
Okay.
okay. I honestly I did not think that he had 800 something yards because maybe it was the way that he finished the year. But I was looking at it. The last the last handful of games were 71 yards rushing, 46, 83 yards rushing, 47 yards rushing, and then 111 yards against SMU, but with 33 carries. So, 3.4, 3.1, 4.4, 3.5, and 3.6 yards per attempt. This was not a good season as far as I'm concerned, but the actual numbers don't look terrible, just counting stats wise.
Yeah. So he was fifth in the ACC in rushing, behind Jamari Taylor, Nate Shepard, Hollywood Smothers, and Demond Claiborne. And all those guys had to have scored more PPR points than him. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did because well, maybe not Smothers because Smothers only had 6 touchdowns. Um,
Yeah, maybe
but
not.
but Shepard probably did. Claiborne, I'm sure, did because I mean it was probably close with Claiborne as well and Shepard. He may have been top three. He may have been. Honestly, it would have been close.
All right, I
Isaac,
apologize. I thought it was a worse take than it was. So, I mean, coming up from from a small school and everything, going to the ACC and possibly and being pretty close. That's not too bad, but honestly, I don't want anything to do with Kendrick Raphael. So I think that's why it's just I'm like, all right, maybe you were right, but at what cost?
Hey, a take's a take. I didn't say anything about Devy value. I just said the guy was gonna
That's fair.
he was gonna crush there.
He wasn't that far off from 1,000 yards. He just needed about 200 more carries, and he could have gotten there. But
Yeah, maybe. I mean, they might have a bowl game. Maybe, I don't know, but we'll see.
all right, I was gonna do the Austin Simmons one, but that feels so unfair. Like the guy got hurt and got Wally pipped. Like I don't even. I we'll have to see. We're gonna wait and see with
Eh,
Austin Simmons. So
it was a rough start though too. It was a
it was.
pretty rough start.
I mean, it was a rough start for Arch Manning. Are we giving up on him? Come on. Now. People have rough starts. He got Wally pipped.
Close.
I'm not even counting that one. Um, let's see here. What I got left? Okay, here's one that is definitely still an unknown. We can't say what is going to happen yet, but I feel pretty damn good about the take. And uh, it was Zachariah Branch will transfer from Georgia after the 2025 season. I I don't know what you could possibly say to think that Zachariah Branch has done enough to go to the NFL, but there's still people. I actually saw Thor Nystrom uh, did a mock draft for what he was wanting the Vikings to do on Twitter, and he did like one of those PFF mock drafts, and uh, he drafted Zachariah Branch in the fourth round for the Vikings, and I'm just like, I mean, what has Zachariah Branch done to earn a fourth round pick? In the NFL draft, I don't get it whatsoever. I mean, it's literally the like epitome uh, of just like right around the line of scrimmage, screens and short slants and that's it. Like nothing. There's not even really yak or anything like that when it's all said and done. He's a true junior, and he's never even surpassed 750 receiving yards. His yards per reception are just every year it's the same exact thing: 10.3, 10.7, 10.2, 8 career touchdowns in college. Like I just don't get it. I think that if he wants to try to do anything, he should try to go somewhere else and and transfer out. But obviously, there's still some people that are believing and saying he's going to go to the NFL draft. But I still feel pretty good about this one. I guess the take was that he wasn't going to do enough to enter the NFL draft, and I still feel pretty solid about that.
Yeah, I think what people aren't realizing is like Georgia figured out that he's a one-trick pony, and they're like, okay, he's just gonna do short curls, slants, screens, and that's what he's good for. Whereas USC was trying to do a little bit more with him than he was able to. And so that's why he looks better at Georgia. Like the yards per route run looks better and all that sort of thing. But his ADOT was cut in half. And it's like really it's historically bad. Like it's 3.3 for this year. There's probably some running backs that have a bigger ADOT than that. And this guy's supposed to be a wide receiver one. It just doesn't really make any sense. Like, yeah, he's a super athlete. We were all excited about him when he came out. When he's a freshman prospect. This is worse than whatever Luther Burden was. Like at least Luther Burden, put up a really solid sophomore season, albeit still low ADOT player, but the market share was there, the yards per route run were there. Zachariah Branch, like at this point, like he's just an extension of the running game almost. Like you're not using him on any sort of like third and 10 plus type plays because he's just not gonna be that guy that you're looking for. So I don't know. I don't understand it either. I think if anything, he will come back to Georgia, just because I think Georgia probably has some sort of NIL deal with him where he stands to make a little bit more money if he comes back. I certainly don't think he's going to be a day two pick next year, but stranger things have definitely happened. So we'll see. A lot of people seem to think he's coming out. I just can't see that happening.
Man, this is just hilarious. This is I did not realize this until just now. I was looking up Zachariah Branch just to see what, like you were saying, his A dot was and everything. There's thousands and thousands of wide receivers in Devi Beth. And like I said, there's no bias or anything like that. It's just what have you done? And the Beth does her magic, and next thing you know, we have a ranking. Guess who are literally back to back in Debbie Beth as wide receiver 186 and wide receiver 187 in DB? Eugene Wilson the third and Zachariah Branch. How does that even happen? How is that even possible? But at the same time, it makes so much sense. They're literally the same player.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if Eugene Wilson didn't get hurt, he would be right up there with all these draft idiots talking about Eugene Wilson's the guy. Just because, yeah, he catches these 2 yard outs, he catches these screenplays and turns them into 8 yards, and people love it for some reason. But it's just not. I don't understand. It's not going to translate to anything in the NFL. Like your best case scenario is like your Cordarrelle Patterson. They're going to have to convert you to a running back at some point.
Yeah, and I think people were getting a little overexcited with your oh man, what the hell is his name? I can't even think of his name now for the Chargers, the white guy. Um,
McConkey.
Yeah, Lad McConkey, thank you. People were getting like way overexcited because of last year, and he had a couple good games this season. But I think we've seen what your slot receiver, your slot only receiver, does in a normal offense. Yeah, of course he can have good games, and Lad's a better receiver than a Zachariah Branch or a Eugene Wilson or whatever. Like this isn't even me trying to hate on him. I'm just trying to show like who are your slot only players? The only ones that do anything is JSN, who's just an absolute stud, just like the stud of studs. And then like look at a guy like Jaden Reed, who barely gets on the field. Even though he's amazing at what he does, he once again 1,000 times better than a Zachariah Branch or a Eugene Wilson or whatever. And even he can only get on the field about 60% of the time and earn about, what, 8 targets a game or whatever, because he's that's just not how the NFL uses players, unfortunately. And so, and that's one of the guys that I love. I love Jaden Reed. I would love to see him used differently and everything, but that's just how the NFL treats these guys. And so I want nothing to do with them. But yeah, Zachariah Branch will transfer out. We'll have to wait and see if he does or does not. I still feel pretty good about the take. I have always been out on Zachariah Branch, and that one always feels pretty good. Andy, it looks like I have a lot more takes than you. Did I just keep spitting takes after you guys were done? Like,
Well,
why do I have
you
like
would rattle
18 or
off like 2
6?
or 3 at a time sometimes. Uh, you said you had 6, but I don't even know how many are on here. I was like, I have 4. But
I
should we
think I have
give Aaron
8.
his flowers right now? Like
Yeah,
before
yeah.
we, yeah.
Let's end it. Let's end it with a good one for Aaron, because this was 2 years ago. I had the Jordan Tyson will be better than Zachariah Branch and will be the best wide receiver out there take, and obviously that has been amazing. I don't know that this is much worse than that because I know at the time I gave him a bunch of crap for it, and Andy might not have given him nearly as much crap as I did, but I don't think you were on board with this take, and that was Aaron said Darian Minsa will be a top 5 Devy QB by the end of the season. I don't even know if consensus is caught up yet to say that he's actually a top 5 QB. I know he's a top 5 WQB for me. I'm pretty sure he is for Andy. I would almost guarantee you he is for Aaron at this point, even though he's not here to tell us where exactly he has him ranked. Actually, we can go look at his ranks on capescanton.com. But I think by this time next year, at the very least, if we're all kind of assuming that he does go back to school, which I guess we're leaning and everything, but uh, I don't know how you could not have him as a top five.
Yeah. Yeah. On that episode, I mentioned it because I almost had it on my hot take as well because he was another one of those 100 to 1 Heisman favorites, and I was gonna try and do another 100 to 1 Heisman call, and I was gonna say Mensa. Um, so I might have only given him a hot for this one, maybe a Diablo because he said top five, but at the same time, like I never, like I don't pretend to know how like the QB landscape is gonna shift throughout the course of a year. So, but I mean, yeah, you're right that the masses have not caught on yet. Like, despite him throwing for 30 touchdowns, despite him throwing for 8 yards per attempt, almost a 10-yard ADOT, 5% big time throw rate, as a true sophomore. Well, no, excuse me, a redshirt sophomore, and taking the step up too, which is not easy. I think a year two in the Duke's system here, he's really gonna flourish, and it really doesn't matter who he's throwing to too either. Like I like Cooper Barkate. I think he's gonna be a sleeper in this NFL draft this year. If unless he has eligibility, maybe he comes back. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know if the masses are there yet. But for me, it's a no brainer. He's top five. Maybe even top three, maybe top one. I think I have CJ Carr and Julian Sayin ahead of him right now. Um, but after that, I think Mensa, you know, slots in pretty well as a top three quarterback. Should he decide to stay, and if he comes out this year, like who are you putting ahead of him? Mendoza and who else? Like probably
That's
not Ty
it.
Simpson. Yeah,
God, no. No, that's the thing. I mean, I just don't know how there's not enough proven players to say that you can not have them in your top five. I will give Mendoza credit the way he finished the year and everything. I did finally move Mendoza ahead of Mensa, but it's not by that much, and so it's not like they're like miles apart or anything like that. They're definitely within the same tier. And so, think about how much hype Mendoza's getting, and yet Mensa gets none of that, and I don't understand it whatsoever. And I'm definitely not comping the players out at all. I mean, they're completely different players, but when I when I see patterns and things, I just love bringing it up because it really does remind me about how I felt about Jaden Daniels going into the 2023 year. And if you remember, Daniels transferred up from Arizona State to LSU. At that point, he was obviously he was a senior, a true senior when he started at LSU. So I'm not like we can't even truly comp the stories or anything like that. But he transferred up from the Pac-12 to the SEC, and then in that first year, he had a solid year, almost 3,000 yards receiving or passing. I'm sorry, 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, solid numbers, nothing amazing. Obviously, he did more rushing and things like that. But then he goes into his second year at LSU and just obliterates everyone, and gets obviously into the Heisman talks and all that kind of stuff, and next thing you know, his numbers look amazing, everything looks amazing. I'm not truly confident in the players, but I feel like if Mensa does stay, kind of like Andy was saying, I could easily see a nice step forward next year for him, and being more comfortable in the system. And then now everyone gives him the respect that he deserves. And if he wasn't a top five consensus QB before, he will definitely be by the end of that year.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I think that's. I mean, we glazed over Austin Simmons. Um,
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm that one's just not fair. The last one that I was going to talk about was Jace Brown, and I don't even know. We all love Jace Brown, and yet I don't know what to do with that one, man. The only thing I
yeah,
will say is I said he was gonna to make it more spicy because I think you guys gave me crap about Jace Brown because we loved him so much. I originally said Jace Brown was going to be a top three Devy wide receiver in the class. And you guys said, that's not good enough. We all like Jace. And so I said, okay, well, he'll be over Carnell Tate. And honestly, I've completely changed my story on Carnell Tate. So I'll admit that that was wrong. I really thought that Tate was just going to kind of fall off this year, and that not fall off to say all of a sudden he was going to be terrible or anything like that, but that he wasn't going to take the step forward that he did. And so I didn't think that he was going to be a top two wide receiver for me when it was all said and done. And yet here we are. Tate easily took a step forward and did everything that I wanted to see from him this season. So I was wrong about the Carnell Tate part. I still love Jace Brown, so I'm not taking an L for that one. That was the weirdest situation and everything, and we don't. I guess we're assuming he's not coming out at this point, so we can see what happens next year and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I will give Carnell Tate his flowers at the end of the show here.
Yeah, yeah. We all still like Jace, but it was a weird year, a lot of injuries, and then also Kansas State, just a weird offense with Avery Johnson. Like week to week, it just wasn't consistent. It's tough. But if you just pull his numbers together at the end of the year, it still looks all right. Like he's still doing what he has been doing for 3 years. So he just needs to either go somewhere else and put it together for a team that's actually good, or just say, I've shown enough. I'll just go to the NFL and be a late day 2 or day 3 pick and go from there. In which case, I will have a ton of Jace Brown because he's probably going to be very cheap, which I can get behind.
Yeah, and I said he was going to be a top 3 Devy wide receiver in the class. I have him. I still have him as the wide receiver 4 in the class. So it didn't change that much for me. Like you said, he did everything right. It's just an ugly, ugly year, and we have no idea if that means is he coming out, is he staying? Does the NFL has the NFL seen what they want to see, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. That's kind of a gross note to leave the pod on, but I we probably should have just left it on Aaron. We should have said Aaron Darian Mensa take of the year, top 5 Devy QB. I hope that Mensa starts getting the love that he deserves because it's been really weird, man.
No, he will.
I went through and I was looking at PFF's big board, and I have no idea how often they update that thing, if they've updated it or not. I kind of guess I assumed that it was going to be updated pretty often, but as I started going through the list, I'm like, nope. Like, there's just names that should not be on there, especially once you start getting into like the hundreds and stuff like that. And I was just looking to see where they had Mensa, and I actually want to say that they had Mensa higher than I thought that they were going to give him credit. So I will give them that one, but then there were so many other names, and I was just like, where, like, how, why? This doesn't make any sense. So I'll be interested to see how quickly all this stuff changes. But hopefully the consensus will catch up on Mensa very soon. But that is enough of that. Even without Aaron, we did a great job of making it past an hour as we always do. And I completely destroyed the intro on the show. Hopefully we can get through the outro without too many issues. But this was a lot of fun going back, revisiting. This is a good time of year to do it. Not too much going on, and we're not necessarily your college football talk show like, oh, what do you think of the playoffs and who got snubbed and who didn't and all that stuff. So maybe we'll do that at some point, but we like to stick to the players more more so figured it'd be a good time to revisit these takes and see, hey, were we right or wrong or whatever. A little bit of everything. Obviously, there were hot takes, so there's definitely going to be some wrong in there, but a couple really good ones, especially that one by Aaron. So that was a lot of fun. We will be back in your ears, probably just Andy and myself. Maybe we will get a guest. Who knows? We'll try to reach out to some people, see what we can come up with. But for now, we're going to go ahead and cash out. We will see you guys later.